Alright, guys, we have reached. Well, okay, so we haven't fully reached all the quarterfinals of the Miami Open. They're not all lined up because today it was raining in Miami and the matches got delayed. So the fourth round match between Alexander Zverev and Arthur Fils has been postponed to tomorrow. So I am making this video today only discussing the quarterfinals from the bottom half of the draw, because if I wait until all the fourth round matches are finished, or wait until that match is finished, which would mean that all of them were finished, the quarterfinals, it looks like they're starting right after the Zverev Fils match tomorrow. So I would have to make it right after that match ends and right before the matches start, like immediately before. And I don't want to do that, so I'm just splitting this up into two parts. And I guess when the Zverev Fils match finishes, I'll make the part two of that for the quarterfinals from the top half. So, first, a few words about Indian Wells. Yeah, it appears that Holger Rune is a fraud. He lost in straight sets against Jack Draper in the final. And yes, I know Jack Draper was playing well, but Rune should have still done a little better than 6-2, 6-2. He had like no chances to get ahead at all, and didn't even manage to keep it close. Yes, Draper only lost one set in the tournament, which was against Alcaraz, which was a bagel set, funnily enough. So yes, he was beating everyone else, but this might have been his easiest match of the entire tournament, except for maybe the first round, or the second round, which was first round for him, because of course seeds get a bye, where he played the kid, and he won 6-4, 6-love, but that first set was way more competitive than any part of this final match was. So, Rune, he couldn't put up much of a fight, and so I have deemed him as a fraud. He has caused my prediction to be an abject failure. The prediction being that I said that he would win 3 sets. I will be more careful next time when making predictions involving him. And it seems that we can count on him to flop in most finals. Most of the finals that he has lost have been in straight sets, and I think that he has lost most Masters finals, or the past few finals he has played in straight sets. So it looks like this guy does not necessarily always bring his best in the finals, and now I will have to keep that in mind. So then we moved on to Miami, and all of the semifinalists from Indian Wells lost in their opening match. So it's looking like a little bit of a WTA Tour thing going on here. The consistency of the big three cannot be expected to be matched, but also these guys are pretty young. Well, okay, look, we're not going to compare these guys to the big three. The only one that we would compare is Alcaraz, but he is okay, people say he is inconsistent. He's not really that inconsistent. Yes, he loses from time to time, but it's not like he loses like every other match. He is still consistent in Grand Slams. And of course, people will say, oh, but he lost to Van de Zandschulp. That was an abnormality. You cannot find another early round loss or bad loss for Alcaraz at Slams other than that for a while. That, just because that happened once, that doesn't mean he's inconsistent at Slams. Because that doesn't happen often at Slams. He usually reaches at least the quarterfinals or beyond, ever since 2022, basically. Ever since the 2022 French Open, basically. He has reached the quarterfinals or beyond in practically every slam, I'm pretty sure. So, every slam that he has participated in. So he is still relatively consistent, pretty consistent at slams. But yeah, the Sunshine Double, which is of course winning Indian Wells and Miami back to back, is not that easy. The conditions are not necessarily that similar, even though these are both on hard courts. But we saw that all the semifinalists lost in their first match coming to Miami, all the semifinalists from Indian Wells. Jack Draper, the champion in Indian Wells, lost in 2 tiebreaks to Jakub Mensik, the Czech kid. Alcaraz went down to David Goffin, who is a former top 10 player. He has beaten all of the big 3 members, so he did used to be good. And he did play well, but Alcaraz was making a lot of mistakes too. So it wasn't like Alcaraz was playing his best or close to it. Rune went down to Riley Opelka, the big server, whom he has trouble with. And Medvedev, which was the least surprising, lost immediately to Jaume Munar, the Spanish guy who has looked decent this year. That was least surprising because Medvedev is finished. It was a good result for him that he even made it to the semifinals of Indian Wells. But he has still not won a title in over a year. So that was the least surprising loss, but it did happen to be the case that all Indian Wells semifinalists lost in their opening match at Miami. And is this surprising? Not really. The only one that was surprising was Alcaraz, in my opinion. I didn't think he would lose his opening match. He doesn't do that often. Yes, it happens, but he usually wins at least one match in the tournament. So that was kind of surprising. But the other ones, not really surprising at all. And of course, as is the case with every loss of Alcaraz, people in the YouTube comment section and stuff like that immediately jump to dramatic conclusions about his future and saying he is washed, he will never win a slam again, and stupid stuff like that, just because he happened to lose at Indian Wells in Miami. People will say, oh, he is done winning slams. Tennis fans are very dramatic, and they will make these conclusions at any opportunity whenever a player suffers a loss, 1 or 2 losses. They will say, oh, he's done. This will happen no matter what. And the opposite as well. When a player wins a small tournament, like Tsitsipas in Dubai, he is ready to win slams. Shapovalov wins Dallas. He is ready to win slams. So it's all just exaggeration, going both ways. Nothing new. This has been going on for years, and it will continue to go on because people do not know anything about tennis, and they just like to over exaggerate whatever result happens. And I guess it's pretty funny. So whatever. But none of these claims should really be taken that seriously when people make conclusions from one tournament or one loss. That you shouldn't really take these claims. What I just said, you shouldn't take these claims that seriously, because people just over exaggerate every result. The only thing that makes sense, it makes more sense to say something like when a young player is coming onto the scene and he wins maybe some big tournament, or even just if he's really young. At least if he's really young, you can say, oh, this guy has potential, maybe he can win a slam in the future. That is somewhat reasonable to say, but it is not like these players like Shapovalov, Tsitsipas, whom we have realized for a few years now do not have the mentality to win slams And then people see them win one tournament and say, now he's ready. Now, this time will be different. No, I'm afraid not. And a lot of people were now hyping Jack Draper because he won Indian Wells. And many people are acting like Draper will for sure win Wimbledon someday for some reason. It seems that a lot of people think Draper's going to win Wimbledon. One of these days he's going to win Wimbledon. Do I believe Draper will win a slam? No, I do not. He has not proven himself. The best result he has had at slams is that one semi-final at the US Open last year, which I watched in person actually. And he actually didn't do a bad job, but he still lost in straight sets to Jannik Sinner. And I don't think that result will be much different if he faces Sinner in a hardcourt slam again. Besides that, he has not proved himself at all at the non-hardcourt slams, despite people thinking that he can win Wimbledon. And he doesn't seem to have the fitness still when he plays long matches in slams. And people say, oh, well, he can just win in straight sets. Well, judging by this year's Australian Open, he cannot just win in straight sets because he went down 2-1 in his first 3 matches and had to win those in 5 sets. And then he retired against Alcaraz in the 4th round. And even at the US Open last year, when he somehow won all of his matches in straight sets up until the semifinals, he still ended up throwing up on the court. So it looks like something is still a problem there. Even though he won all his matches in straight sets, he was not able to manage enough to get through that semifinal match without any sort of physical problems. So he's going to have to fix that if he wants to win slams. So far, at this point, I don't really think he can win one. I don't see it happening, unlike what a lot of people are saying. But I would give him better chances than Tsitsipas and Shapovalov. I guess I would give him better chances. He's younger than them, but I don't think any of these people will win slams actually. But getting on to Miami and actually now. So the quarterfinals for the bottom half of the draw are set. And let's start with Francisco Cerundolo, the Argentine, against the Bulgarian Grigor Dimitrov. The head-to-head is something. I think it's 1-0 for Dimitrov. They have only met once, which was on grass, I think. And Dimitrov won in straight sets. Both of these players have actually been cooking, as the kids say, at this tournament. Cerundolo, like I have said, he didn't do bad at Indian Wells. He made the quarterfinals where he lost to Alcaraz. Cerundolo, when he gets in a rhythm, he is really a pleasure to watch. He just hits the ball so cleanly, and with so much force and with great placement, going down the line, going inside out. It's very smooth. It's very smooth when he clicks and when he gets into a rhythm. When he doesn't, he will just make a random unforced error. That is basically the only 2 options. He will be in a good rhythm and play beautiful points, or he will make some random error in the middle of the point. So it's very satisfying when he doesn't make the error. And he hasn't been making too many of the errors in this tournament, where he has looked pretty good. He defeated Tommy Paul. I think it was like 6-2, 7-6. He was up like 6-2, 4-1, and I wasn't watching all of that match, but the commentator was saying like, "Oh, this man was absolutely unplayable for the first 13 games or whatever it was." The commentators do like to exaggerate stuff as well, just like casual tennis fans. But I think it's fairly believable to it's fairly believable that Cerundolo was playing quite well for the first 13 games in that match before Paul decided to change some tactics and claw his way back in. But Cerundolo played a very good tiebreak. It was looking like a Verdasco level tiebreak up until Paul staged like a mini comeback, but Cerundolo still won that tiebreak 7-4, I believe. And then he just beat Casper Ruud, who is not any big threat on these courts, although he did actually reach the final 3 years ago, where he lost to Alcaraz, and he beat Cerundolo on the way in that semifinal in Miami 2022, when Cerundolo was ranked much lower, and he got 2 walkovers and then ended up coming to the semifinals, which was, I believe, his Masters 1000 debut. And now he has a chance to get to the semifinals again. This time he turned the tables on Ruud, cooked him, like Ruud did to him 3 years ago when he was a much worse player. He was looking pretty good from the 2 minutes of the match that I saw. Actually, it might have been even less than that, but it seemed like he was pretty good. Seems to be striking the ball well. I did see a bit of the Paul match at the end. Dimitrov, it looks like he is playing pretty well as well. I didn't see much of the match he just played against Nakashima, but apparently he was serving pretty well. Didn't face a break point or something, and he just broke Nakashima once in each set, and that was it. So both of these players have actually looked pretty good, been kind of on fire, you could even say that maybe. So I think this can be a tough contest, but I will just give my slight edge to Dimitrov, and I will have him winning in 3 sets. Now for the other quarterfinal in the bottom half of the draw, we have the 24-time Grand Slam champion, the greatest player of all time, Novak Djokovic, who has snapped his losing streak in Miami. He was on a 3-match losing streak. 4-match losing streak would have been diabolical. After he lost in the first round at Doha, which I don't know, which he went there to retire Verdasco and to get the appearance fee, probably. And another first round loss in Indian Wells, where he looked pretty horrible against Botic van de Zandschulp, who was a good player, but Djokovic did not look good. So, after first round matches in those 2 tournaments, he has found a bit of form here in Miami, and he has made his way to the quarterfinals. In the process, he has surpassed Rafael Nadal's record for most Masters 1000 match wins. I believe he now has like 412 or 413, something like that. And granted, he has not had the toughest draw. He faced Hijikata in the first round, who has greater achievements in doubles than singles. Then he faced a lucky loser, Ugo Carabelli, who I think has won like 2 matches on hard courts on the ATP Tour in his entire career. And Djokovic still went to a tiebreak against the guy when the guy was serving like 45% serves in. The guy looks like the ultimate pusher, I'm not going to lie. When I saw him play a little bit in this tournament, the guy was just slicing like endlessly, just defending everything, which is actually made for some entertaining points. But yeah, Djokovic just upped his level in that tiebreak and won 7-1. And now he just defeated Musetti, which was a pretty good performance from him. He went down 2-love, and then he got like some time violation or something, and that made him mad, which causes him to play better, as we all know. And then he won 6 games in a row to finish that set 6-2, and then he won like the first 3 games of the second set, so 9 games in a row, and then he ended up winning that set 6-2 as well. So this was a pretty clean, solid performance from Djokovic, but Musetti is not really an elite hardcourt player. So do not be fooled into thinking that he has activated a great level now. Maybe he has, but you can't really tell from a player like Musetti on hard courts, in my opinion. And now he will face someone whom I believe will be a step up in level, the American Sebastian Corda, who has found some form here himself after struggling with injuries for the past, I don't know, few years. It's been like on and off, I think. I don't know. I can't keep track of this. Anyway, Corda, he just defeated Monfils, got revenge on him because I believe Monfils defeated him in Indian Wells. So Corda just defeated him in 3 sets. The head-to-head between these players is 1-love to Djokovic. They faced in the final of Adelaide 2 years ago, and Corda actually almost won. That he was probably playing the best tennis of his life at that time. Corda had 1 or 2 match points against Djokovic in that match, but Djokovic saved them and went on to win the match, a very close 3-setter. Now, I was not having much faith in Djokovic going into this tournament based on the fact that he lost in the first round in Doha and in Indian Wells, and I didn't think that he would really care about this small tournament by his standards, when I feel like he only kind of cares about the Grand Slams right now, but he is deciding to play more tournaments this year. I didn't have many expectations for him going into the tournament because I felt like he was just playing for fun. So I didn't even necessarily expect him to reach the quarterfinals. I don't really know what I expect. I kind of expected an early round loss again, but he has managed to reach the quarterfinals here. So it looks like he is coming to play a little bit here at least. And I feel like he can win. I feel like this is a rather winnable match for him in the quarterfinals. This is a good opportunity to just stat pad another semifinal. Yeah, I feel like this is just a winnable match for him. Corda has not done much for the past couple of years, and Djokovic was starting to find a rhythm against Musetti. Even though Musetti is not a strong hardcourt opponent, he was still playing better probably than the previous 2 matches, Djokovic. So I think he will not troll too much, and I think he can win this in straight sets actually, and go to the semifinals against Dimitrov. And this is actually kind of looking like a golden opportunity to win his 100th title. Not to get ahead of myself, but I don't know if he will get many draws more favorable than this. He reached the final in Shanghai last year, but he lost to Jannik Sinner, who has been near unbeatable on hard courts since last year. So now Jannik Sinner is not here. So all he has to do to win this title is go through Corda, whom he should be able to beat because Corda has not really been doing much recently. And then he will most likely, if he gets Dimitrov in the semifinals, his record against Dimitrov is like 13-1 or something like that. So he appears to own him. So that should look like a pretty winnable match for him, since he knows how to play Dimitrov. And then the final, it can be, if Zverev gets to the final, that can be tough because Zverev has actually found some form himself. But it would still be better than facing Jannik Sinner, I'll tell you that. But Zverev, there's also the possibility that Fritz can go to that semifinal, and Zverev can lose to Fritz, and Djokovic is like 10 in love against Fritz. So if Fritz gets to that final, Djokovic will really want to win this now. But I'm getting too ahead of myself, so for now I will just say my predictions for the bottom half of the draw for these two quarterfinals. I think Dimitrov will defeat Cerundolo in 3 sets, and I think Djokovic will defeat Korda in straight sets. And we will have a semifinal from the bottom half of the draw between the Bulgarian Grigor Dimitrov, the 14th seed, and the 4th seed, the greatest player of all time, Novak Djokovic. And I will, as soon as sometime after the Zverev Feast match finishes tomorrow, I will upload my prediction video for the quarterfinals from the top half of the draw. We know that Jakub Mensik is in the quarterfinals after Mahac retired, which surprises nobody because the dude's body is made of glass. He retires a lot of matches. He gave him a walkover to his countryman Mensik from Czechia. So Mensik is awaiting the winner of Zverev and Feast, and the other quarterfinal from the top half is already set, which is Taylor Fritz against Matteo Berrettini. So I will talk about those 2 quarterfinal matches in the next video.